Welcome to the podcast. If you'd like to listen to an ad-free version of this episode and all of our episodes, then search True Crime Today Premium Plus on Apple Podcasts and press subscribe. That's our premium channel where all of our ad-free and advanced episodes live, all in one place. True Crime Today Premium Plus. Search it on Apple Podcasts and press subscribe. Even try it for 3 days free.
The blood washed away, but the guilt never does. Welcome to Hidden Killers with Tony Bruschi, featuring psychotherapist and author Siobhan Scott.
When you have extremely emotionally unregulated people, and I think you have that honestly in both of these individuals. You have the fact that he's punching holes in walls when he's angry, firing a gun
Yes.
when he's angry. I mean, these are not normal things to do. I mean, nor is it a great idea to, keep reconciling and then inviting him back to your home and then you're going to move together. And I mean, again, I'm not victim blaming here. I'm just saying these are two people who didn't seem to grasp the emotions that they were going through and then take the correct actions because of those emotions. Because one would think if this is this horrible, why are you having any interaction? Well, you already are away from him, but then he did kind of go into that stalking area. It's just so convoluted all around, and it's hard to believe someone, whether you should or not. And maybe she should be believed when they do seem to go to extremes and exaggerate things. On one hand, and then to another, it's more balanced. It's the boy who cried wolf to a certain extent, but you don't know what is real and what is not because those emotions are turned up to 12. And it all just becomes white noise.
Yeah. And it's a terrible situation for the court to try to sort through and get to what is really happening. It's terrible to be the therapist in that situation sometimes. And it is also common in domestic abuse relationships for them to break up, reconcile, break up, reconcile. In fact, I'd say that is what happens most of the time. And sometimes that goes on for years and years because people tend to be hopeful. And, they have a honeymoon phase and the batterer promises, oh, it'll be different now. I love you so much. It's seductive. They do have, couples like this have a very strong, intense bond often, even though, as you say, it's not a healthy bond.
Yeah, it's a
and
trauma bond.
Neither one of them were in a place to be in this kind of romantic relationship.
Is there a silver lining in all of this? I know the first thing people are saying, oh my gosh, this little girl, now she doesn't have her mom for 20 years. Dad is dead. I was making this point the other day. I mean, it's kind of dark, but it's kind of like, maybe that's the best thing for this little girl. Maybe at the end of the day, Ashley was not going to be a great mom. I mean, she doesn't seem extremely stable from what we've seen. Would she have been a great mom? Or would she have just kind of repeated a cycle here and created another person very similar to her? Because that's all she knows. And then you have dad that's completely gone. If he were around, again, probably not a great parent at the end of the day. That's going to create a very wonderful, balanced human being. Is this child better off being raised, hopefully, by someone who is a much healthier individual in their mind and in what they can do to raise this person versus Ashley or Doug if he was still around?
It's such a hard one to say. I mean, we can speculate, but I think having your father murdered by your mother and having mother incarcerated during your entire growing up years, I mean, that is a burden that's going to be rough for this child, unfortunately.
But what's worse, and my speculation is that I don't think she'd be a great influence. So if we're going down that road, is it better to have that person there or is it not?
It depends. I think a lot of young women who are in abusive relationships can learn and look at their mistakes and look at their patterns and then go on to have effective, fairly healthy lives. And again, with this personality stuff, the tendency to have big emotional reactions, we learn to moderate. I mean, the brain isn't done baking until age 25.
Yeah.
So we can learn. I always say the 20s are when most of us, including me, made our big romantic mistakes, had the early marriages that were just
Yeah.
Terrible judgment,
Yeah.
terrible judgment. I did that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think reasonably bright people can learn and then move on to do relationships differently. So she could have been
Yeah.
an effective parent.
There's
Yeah,
certainly a lot of
hard to say.
could-haves. I mean, she's not a static person where she's would have been or will be this version of herself eternally. If she did get on the right path to growth and getting better in her mind for herself and then for her daughter, you're right. It could be a completely different story, but one that this is how the cards have fallen, and it's a sad story all around. Fascinating look at abuse, though, and in a very interesting or bizarre way, it all fleshes out in this case.
Yeah, this would be an interesting case study for people who are studying to be therapists, to try to watch all this testimony and weigh it and sort it out and have the same kind of discussion that you and I are having right now.
Yeah. Welcome to the podcast. If you'd like to listen to an ad-free version of this episode and all of our episodes, then search True Crime Today Premium Plus on Apple Podcasts and press subscribe. That's our premium channel where all of our ad-free and advanced episodes live, all in one place. True Crime Today Premium Plus. Search it on Apple Podcasts and press subscribe. Even try it for 3 days free.
You're neck deep in a dark, twisted tale, and just as the tension peaks, bam, a commercial about some miracle diet pill breaks the spell. It's like finding a fly in your soup after the first bite. But here's the fix. True Crime Today Premium Plus on Apple Podcasts. You get to enjoy your crime stories without the junk. Ad-free episodes, extended interviews that go beyond the surface, and early access to all the gruesome details. It's like swapping out a can of cheap beer for a glass of fine whiskey. So search for True Crime Today Premium Plus on Apple Podcasts. Subscribe and keep the darkness flowing uninterrupted.